Hi, I'm Dr. April Dobson, your host of Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited about our very special guest, Jay Jackson. He is the founder of Serve, Impact, and Prosper, and I can't wait for us to interview him today and learn some valuable insights. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Purpose Today and our very special guest, Jay Jackson. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Purpose Today. I am your host, Dr. April Dobson. It is certainly a pleasure to have our very special guest, Jay Jackson. Welcome, Jay. It is a pleasure to have you here on Purpose Today. Welcome.
Thank you, April. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor and it's a privilege, and I'm just excited about our conversation and serving and helping the people.
You're very welcome. And certainly I'm excited to have you here today. So very excited to have you here. I know a lot of our viewers may not be familiar with you. We've had an opportunity to, talk at length. I had the opportunity to be a guest on your podcast. So thank you again for having me as a guest. But today we're going to focus on you. And so for our guests who may not be familiar with you, could you please just share some information about yourself with our viewers?
Yeah, well, I'm probably like most of your viewers. I'm a little Southern boy from Birmingham, Alabama. I'm a Navy brat, so my mom took us away from Birmingham when I was 9 years of age. And before graduating high school, I had lived in 7 different states. I then joined the Air Force myself, where I lived in multiple states and a couple of countries and traveled across Europe while overseas. And I love everything about, being in the military. But at some point, as you know, most corporations, like our military industrial complex, tell some folks that you got to find your next opportunity. And I was one of those 250,000 or so folks back in 2014 that had to find their next opportunity. And so I never wanted anybody to have that much control over my life to dictate where I could live, how much money I could make, who I could work with. And so because of that, I decided, hey, God, whatever we're going to do, it's going to be all on me and you. And so it's been that way for the past 10 years. God has blessed me with some amazing gifts and talents, and blessed me with the opportunity to be able to take those gifts and talents and lessons learned and experiences to be able to just give back to other people so that they can try to avoid some of the mistakes, that I've made, so we can, speed up their process and help them not waste time, not waste money, and do the things that actually work. And so that's how we met, and that's why we're here, so we can serve and help the people.
Well, that is wonderful. And I really appreciate you, sharing just a little bit about yourself. And I really appreciate the, desire that you have really to help people, to serve people. And I know that you spent some time in the military. We talked a little bit about that, about your military experience. And, a lot of people join the military to, serve their country. And there's a lot of, or, in some way, they want to give back. So is there, anything that you'd like to talk about just from your experience as a prior service member that really maybe inspired you, post-military, or had any influence on, the path that you took post-military?
Yeah, honestly, I like to tell people that I've been a servant leader my entire life because my mom and grandmother made sure that we were in church, right? Like most people from our community. If there was a choir practice on Tuesday, Bible study on Wednesday, or some kind of bake sale or car wash on Saturday, we were there. And then for Sunday morning service and Sunday evening service, we were there. And so joining the military wasn't new, like serving and helping people and supporting the community wasn't new for me once I put the uniform on. I just think the military gave me or put a magnifying glass really on, how I was raised, because every duty station I would, join right into the local community and help young kids, whether it's through football, basketball, things of that nature, or even leading community type projects like our MLK project, with the partnership with the base and the local community. So, serving, it's something that I love to do. I tell people often, like, it is very selfish for me because it makes me feel good whenever I can help someone else. And I know a lot of people, get a benefit or value out of the service, that I either do as an individual or even us in our ministry or our company. And I'm happy that people are getting value, but I promise you, it is 100% selfish, and I do it because it makes me feel good.
Wow. And you talked a little bit about, the things that you do, whether it's for your company or if it's for, your ministry. So as the founder of Serve, Impact, and Prosper, can you tell us just a little bit about what your organization does and how you're impacting people?
Yeah, so we are primarily a food ministry. We primarily focus on the senior community or the senior population. So here locally right now, we have a 55 plus community that we feed every single Thursday. You have to live within that. Well, you don't have to live within that senior community, but you do have to be 55 years of age to come in and participate in the benefits that we provide through our weekly food ministry. And we are also, at this point, we're preparing to partner with the Atlanta Community Food Bank, which will allow us to have access to more food and larger amounts of fruits and vegetables so that we can better serve the one community we're in. However, I also have a goal by the end of 2025 to add 2 additional senior communities to our service. And us feeding people, it really comes from 2 parts. One, when I grew up as a kid, I told you my mom she moved us to Michigan, and we didn't have a refrigerator. We had to depend on the church, to provide us with food because we were, in that poverty, low income state. And because we didn't have a refrigerator, she actually put our eggs, cheese, and milk outside in the snow. And that's how we actually survived. And then when I got out of the military, there was a moment in time where my wife and I, we struggled, with getting food and things like that. We actually had to go on food stamps, which I grew up that way. So initially my thought process was, this is normal, right? But as I'm going through their kind of verification process, the second month and then the third month, I just had it. I was like, nope, I'm never doing this ever again, because they're asking you about all your expenses and why'd you buy a stick of gum? And even if you bought a beer at a gas station, they're like, why is this expense? And I was like, nope, never happening. And it was so painful for me that, we got to the point to where we had to actually use gift cards from her birthday just to go and get food because we were just trying to figure it out. And so we always promised and we always prayed that, whenever we were in a position to be able to, serve and give back, we were going to do that. We have not taken, any donations from anyone. Well, people do, drop a $10 here or a $20 there, but we don't have a system in place for us to generate, any cash from it. We take proceeds from, the investments that our clients make into our business, and we utilize that to fuel the food ministry. But yeah, that's literally why we do it. I mean, we love serving and we love helping people, and we just always said that when we had a chance, we were going to give back to folks.
That's awesome. I think it's great that you're doing that. What if people want to volunteer? Is there anything that they can do to volunteer at your organization? I know you said you cater to communities within the Atlanta area. So is there anything that people can do to volunteer if they want to
Yeah,
do that?
absolutely. We will never turn away volunteers. So we're literally right now, I'm identifying some local sororities and fraternities that we want to actually partner and collaborate with, because as I was saying about us expanding our operations, when we partner with the Atlanta Community Food Bank, we're now receiving food on a larger scale, like multiple pallets of food. And so right now we have 3 consistent volunteers who serve and help us every single Thursday. 2 of them, well, all 3 of them are from the senior community. And so 2 of them are still, that 55, 56 range, but
Right.
they're not physically capable of, taking heavy loads and things like that. So we're just trying to, figure out right now is how can we partner with other organizations who are in need of service hours, and then we give them the opportunity to get their service hours. We have the opportunity to have talent and people around us to be able to help us grow and expand it. So yeah, people are always welcome, especially as we continue to move into multiple communities. It's the work is plenty, and so we need as many workers as we can get.
That's great. So if they want to volunteer, do they go to the website? Do they send an email? What's the process
Yeah,
for?
you can just send an email, and I would say, who she's probably not going to like it, but I'm going to do it anyways. Send an email to Bianca Bianca at serveimpactandprosper.com. And she'll get that because she basically runs the ministry portion of everything. So yeah, you can email her and ask her any questions about volunteering.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. And just for people who want to make sure that they have the right email address if they're interested in volunteering. What was that email address again for
Yeah,
anybody who might be interested?
yeah, Bianca Bianca at serve impact impact and prosper prosper.com serveimpactandprosper.com.
Perfect. Thank you. And so I want us to transition a little bit, and really, it's not a big transition, but I think it's so important. All the things that you talked about just in your military experience back. Being in ministry prior to serving in the military, growing up in ministry, and everything that you've done. These are all different examples of how you've served others. But I know that you had to have a pivotal moment when you discovered your purpose, your specific purpose for being on the planet. When did you have that discovery? And was there something that was, pivotal or life changing for you to have that discovery?
Well, it's funny because I'll have to go back to my military time and then come back fast forward. So while in the military, I actually thought being in the military was my purpose because it was super easy. I was getting promoted at like first time, each promotion. Actually, so for tech sergeant, which was E6, it took me second time. I was going through relationship challenges, and so I couldn't really focus that time. But for staff and master, it was both first time. And so because my job, getting promoted was easy, I went from security forces, retraining to air traffic control. Everybody's like, hey, they got an 80% washout rate. I even had a superintendent tell me, oh, you're going to get washed out and you'll be back. I ended up being number 2 in my class in terms of a top grad. And so I kind of built up this mentality of like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing in life. Like, this is it. This is why God put me on this earth. It's easy. I'm having fun. And then that's when everything just kind of the bottom fell out of it. My life was devastated. I went through depression and stress and anxiety and the overwhelm and the burnout and everything that comes with trying to, rediscover yourself and create this new identity or, rediscover your new purpose. And that was one of the conversations that God and I used to have. I mean, deep conversations like, Lord, I thought that was my purpose. Why on God's great earth are you putting me through this? And so my very first client is when I realized what my true purpose was going to be here on this planet. So I was living down in Warner Robins, Georgia. It's near Macon, Georgia, middle Georgia. That's where I got out of the military at. And I hosted this event called like a vision board party. One of my she's still a friend, but she was once a mentor, a chief while I was in the uniform. And she and I partnered on this event, and it was a vision board party. We just pushed it on our regular social media channels, and people showed up. And one of the young ladies at the end, her name was Deanna, or her name is Deanna. She came up to me and was like, you know what? Do you coach people? And at the time, I was just like, no, like, what are you talking about coaching people? I just wanted to do this vision board thing because I'm studying vision boards and trying to, apply some biblical principles to see if they really work, right? I'm testing stuff to see if it really works. Like, oh my God, you're so talented at this. You really changed my life. And as she's saying it to me, I got like this kind of like a chills, and the hairs on my arms and everything stood up. And I could see in her eyes, I could see in her face where she literally looked at me and was like, I just found the answer, basically, to whatever it is that she was going through at the time. She had a disability. She was in a wheelchair, and she was trying to find love. Basically, she was trying to find someone who would accept her for who she is. And of course, we went through some exercises and, some things to help her with developing her confidence and a new self-image and, believing that she was worthy and deserving of love, even though, she may have had her condition. And I challenged her to actually try to do online dating. And she actually tried online dating. She's been married now for 11 years to the guy that she met online. And
Wow.
so for me, like, it's like those pivotal moments where I realize, like, okay, God, if we really pay attention to the signs and the symbols that you give us, and I think sometimes we think God is this mystical, magical, being that's sitting out in the universe, just kind of, chilling and dictating everything. And I'm like, oh, God will send you a message through people. He'll send you a message through a song. He'll send you a message through something you're watching on television. But I think a lot of times we're so distracted by just life, right? What's going on in the world, what's on social media, what
Right.
happened, down the street, and we miss God. And I think it's in those moments, like the one I'm describing to Deanna, where she said, hey, I want you to help me. That's when I realized, like, whoa, this is really what God wants me to do. And all the things that I had went through up until that point in time was just preparation for it all.
That's good. You said something, about God just taking different moments, like speaking to you through someone else, taking a song, taking something that you see on TV, and using those things to, to speak to us. What if we have someone who's watching today? They're not really clear on their purpose. What's some advice that you can give to them, so that they can discover their purpose and start pursuing it?
Yeah. So the very first thing, and it's going to be, it's easier said than done. And so I trust me from experience, I understand how difficult it's going to be for me to tell you, for you to do what I'm about to tell you. And that is, you literally have to block out the noise. Like, you literally have to say, okay, there's no television. I'm going to fast from television for the next 30 days. I'm going to fast from social media. I'm going to fast from any environment, right, that's not speaking a message that I believe to be godly. And I'm not saying that, you necessarily have to be someone who, if you are, and I'll say that in the secular space, right, in the secular world, or if you are in the religious space, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to sit down and say, okay, I have to block out all of these distractions so that I can become more intimate with God, so that I can hear God's voice. So that I can pour my heart out to God, opposed to just kind of going through the motions of praying or going through the motions of thank you, because you feel like that was a particular blessing. And so first thing is just block it all out. If you have a prayer group, then of course, you're going to pray with the people that you trust and believe that, their hearts are intent and is pure. But at the end of the day, you got to block it out. You got to go within your prayer closet, whatever it might be. It could be the bathroom, the bedroom, living room, your car. But you got to be real intentional about saying, I don't want to hear any noise. I only want to hear God. And when you are intentional about that and you make it very clear, you're convicted that this is about me and God, you will hear he's there. God has never left, will never leave, has always been there. But it's us. It's us that just we have so much going on that creates so much up in here that we can't hear God.
That's good. Now, you said something else, and I think that's a practical approach for people to use. And you said something else that I have to go back to, because I think people ignore. You talked about the experience when you did the vision board, session. And, that was something that you were teaching and you were just leading that. And it was in the moment that you did that, that there was an opportunity of self-discovery. How important do you believe it is for us to do the things that we're desiring and do the things that we feel are impressed upon us to do in helping us to get clarity regarding our purpose?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a game changer, to be honest with you, right? One, self discovery can only happen in the process of man or woman get to know thyself. Right. I think that we all are sent to this spinning blue planet with some amazing gifts and some amazing talents. It's just that some of them were, probably snuffed out when we were a kid because someone probably said, you're not good enough or you're not smart enough, pretty enough, fast enough, you name it. And so we go through life just thinking we're not enough. And so we'll settle. We'll settle for jobs that don't align with us. We'll settle for relationships that aren't aligned with us. We'll just settle, right? Because we don't think that we're worthy of more. One of the things I truly believe is I believe that we are all born wealthy. If we're going to say that we are sons and daughters of the King, of the Most High God, oh my God, how can I be poor? Like, how can I be in poverty? How can I be in suffering? How can I be in depression? It's just, you can't, to me. And I do understand that mental health is, a thing, right? We have to exercise our mind as much as we have to exercise our bodies. But when you really discover who you are and whose you are and the Holy Spirit that is living inside of you and how you are just literally a temple, this physical flesh and bones is just a temple for the Spirit of God, I just think it shifts your perspective around who you are, what you're capable of doing, and like you say, the desires of your heart in terms of the impact that you want to make, the lives that you want to change, and there's no limitation, at least for me, and I've discovered it on my journey. There's no limitation to what is possible once you discover who you truly are and what you're capable of and have inside of you.
Absolutely. So, you just touched on, something that I think that's very important. And, it's really knowing our identity and, who we are and who created us. And I think that helps us also to really discover our purpose. So before we pivot and talk more about, what you're doing in some other spaces, I just want to make sure that everybody who's watching today really understands the importance of purpose in our lives. So if you want to just like kind of sum it all up and, let our viewers know, how do you feel purpose plays an importance and significance in our lives?
Without it, nothing is possible. For me, it fuels me. It helps me make decisions because once you have clarity on your purpose, you have clarity on your values. You have clarity of vision in terms of what God wants you to do while you're here. And so every decision that you make should be filtered through that purpose. Does this decision help me ultimately get a step, 10 steps, 100 steps closer to the vision that God has given me? And so when things get tough, because I'm telling you from experience, the smile you see on my face is not the smile that I've always had. And so I'm from experience. Without purpose, I wouldn't have the fuel like that. Sometimes people think that you need some type of external motivation to come along and kind of rah, rah, rah and pump you up. And I remember listening to the late, great Jim Rohn talk about how if you do that, you just got a bunch of motivated idiots, right? And when you are driven from a motivation that's deep within and it's a burning desire that it just cannot be turned off, like that's all you think about, that's all you talk about, that's all you want to be consumed with it. And when that purpose, when it's covering you and you're walking and operating in it, people look at you as if you probably have two heads and three tails coming out of you. But at the end of the day, I think operating in that, but of course, operating in love, but then operating with zero tolerance and non-negotiable boundaries around what I'm going to allow in my life and the direction that we're going in.
That's good. That's awesome. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And I want us to give an opportunity to talk about some of the other things that you're doing. And so what would you like to share about some of the other ventures that you're currently engaged in?
Yeah, I mean, we got quite a few things going on right now. I guess the most important thing for me right now is just being able to serve and give back, right? So, like, we've got an upcoming master class coming up. It is a paid master class. I used to do a lot of free, events and workshops and webinars and master classes. And then one of my mentors, he was like, nope, you have to put up a paywall because that paywall basically creates a barrier for those who are just searching for free information and tire kickers. And he was basically saying to me, like, hey, you're going to have a huge drop in terms of people who register and people who attend. He says, but you're going to have to endure. And that's the part for me where I just say to people, like, okay, you got to trust people who are a couple of steps ahead of you. And that's what we're doing. Like, I went through a period in my life where I actually believed what we had been taught, right? That you just got to work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard, work hard. And that working hard almost cost me, and it almost cost me dearly to the point to where I actually passed out in the shower while at the gym, no less. And that experience was a game changer for me because I realized that what we have been taught, especially, in school, and I'm a sports guy, and even in the military, where it's just like, it doesn't matter. You just burn the candle at both ends. You'll work 18, 20 hours because that's what the mission calls for. But I ended up in the hospital for 3 days. I was diagnosed with dehydration and exhaustion. They poked me, they prodded me, they put me in MRI machines. I realized I was claustrophobic, something I didn't know. But that moment was it was a catalyst for me. And because it was a catalyst for me, that's what we call our proprietary system, the Catalyst system. That's what we're teaching in our master class. It is specifically designed to help you cut 25 hours off of your work week. So basically you can work in your business part-time while making more money. And so we'll teach you some different strategies around marketing, sales, automations, increasing your pricing so that you can actually position yourself as someone who is a premium, offer or premium service that you provide. But most importantly, allowing you to have the time freedom and the money freedom to do the things that you love, whether that's, spend quality time with your family, go on vacations. Like we're waiting for the weather here in Georgia. Oh my God, it's bipolar here. Waiting on the weather here in Georgia to get better because we like to do outdoorsy type things. We like to hike. We like to go to state parks. We're super big into nature. So yeah, if those are the kind of things that you love to do, we'd love for you to come and join us and just participate in the masterclass.
Wonderful. And anything other than going to the website that's on the screen that individuals would need to do to sign up?
No, I mean that's pretty much it. Just go to the site. There, of course, it'll break down for you exactly what it's going to be all about. I'll share a little bit of my story, but if you believe that it's a good fit for you, that it resonates with where you are in your journey, come join us, be a part of us. It's a movement, and I was literally I had a podcast guest on this morning, and one of the questions that I asked her was, about her legacy, right? And what would be the final words that she would want, to say to managers and leaders out there. And she literally just was like, be you. And I was like, wow, like so simple, but it literally resonated with me right in that conversation, be you. And I was like, you know what? I think that's going to be our new t-shirt slogan on the front of it, like disruptive leadership, be you. And she was really excited about it. And I was like, you know what? I really think that's it. So she and I chatted about, doing the mock-ups and sending them to her and her giving some feedback. But I say all of that to say, man, everything that we're doing right now is about a movement, about our mission to transform 10 billion lives in every country across the planet. I know there aren't 10 billion people on the planet right now. That means that we have to build something that's sustainable, something that can last beyond our lifetime. And so that's the way we're thinking. That's the way we're operating. That's the way we're putting our infrastructure and team together so that when God does say, hey, good job, my good and faithful servant, and he calls me on, all we have to do literally is pop somebody else in front of the microphone and the camera, and they can keep pushing forward.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I do know that you have a couple of books. You've got some books that you've authored. Would you like to share some insight on your books and how viewers can find your book?
For sure, for sure. So I'm going to show one. I'll talk about both, but I only show one on the screen because I was like, oh my God, I can't go find one in the library of the other one. So my first book is The Transformation Experience, Shifting Your Mindset for Success. And in this particular book, I specifically just talk about how a lot of what we discussed today, like that self-discovery, that self-mastery process, the process that I personally went through and even help a lot of our clients go through to really discover your purpose, identify your true calling, your gifts and your talents, and then putting a plan in place. There are some practical exercises within the book that if people actually do the exercises and answer the thought-provoking questions, it will shift their perspective and shift their mindset around, how they've been operating versus the new or better way, or I would say better, but a different way that they can operate so that they can change their results. And then that book literally came from my transition, like my entire process of transitioning from, Sergeant Jackson to now Mr. J. Jackson. So that's what that book is all about. And then my second book, Open Mic, Cut the BS, and I'll say BS because I'll keep this one PG-13. But it's open mic, cut the BS and get going. And so that book is really, I think it's a conversation with myself. It's a conversation with me because I was in a place to where I knew that I had the gifts. I knew I had skills. I knew that I had talent. I knew that I was high, educated, all types of certificates and degrees from my time in the military, but I couldn't quite understand, why I couldn't get unstuck. And it was really me saying to myself, like, you need to cut the BS, dude, and just get going, right? If you say you can do these things, you say that you believe all these things are possible, why aren't you doing it? And so it's more of a motivation piece to myself. But I was recording the audio of it one day and my daughter was like, what are you in there saying? And so I started to tell her, like, are you doing another book? And I was like, no, I'm just literally just kind of, venting and getting my words and my thoughts out. And I decided to record it. And she was like, well, that probably would be a cool audio book. And I was like, okay, message. Thank you, God. I hear this. I was. So that was the second book. And I'm literally preparing right now to write my third book. It's specifically going to be around business and systems, marketing and sales. So we're working on that book right now.
That's wonderful. Congratulations. So where would viewers go to purchase your books?
Yeah, so all of them are on Amazon right now. So you can just go to Amazon and search for either of the books, Open Mic, Cut the BS, and get going. If you have to spell out BS for the adults. But then the Transformation Experience, Shifting Your Mindset for Success is the first book. You can get them both on Amazon.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And then if our viewers want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, just on social, right? So on Instagram, it's Disruptive Leaders Alliance. You can find me there on IG. My Facebook business page is J Jackson is Disruptive Leadership. On LinkedIn or my personal Facebook, it's just J Jackson. So yeah, you can find me and follow me on any of our social media channels. And I'd love to connect with you. If content resonates with you, say something and we'll start the conversation and build a relationship from there.
Fantastic. And we've got your email on the screen there in case anybody wants to send you an email. And then I have the IG Disruptive Leaders Alliance. Anything else that you want to add before we conclude our interview today, Jay?
Just be purposeful, right? Like the name of the show is Purpose Today, right? You live your purpose today. I think even when you don't know exactly what your purpose is, just start walking in any direction And at some point, you will realize whether or not you're headed in the right direction or whether or not you're headed in the wrong direction. But the most important thing is you have to start moving. You can't wait for some magical moment. Like I tell people all the time, like God's not going to just peel back the clouds and be like, "Hey, April, here's what I need you to do." Right? You have to start moving, and so that's why, like, even people who are heavy into going to church, especially in the Black community, we hear this a lot where people say, "You know what? I'm just waiting on the Lord," and I'm like, "You're not waiting on the Lord. Lord waiting on you to get up off of your
Right.
behind and go do something." You don't have to wait on the Lord. The Lord is always moving. God never sleeps 24/7, 365. He is moving things and making things happen. So if you want God to show up in your life, you have to show up in your life. You have to become who you want to become. And in doing that, God will begin to bring people, resources, the provision, right? Any kind of manna that you might think you need, it'll start to show up. But you can't murmur out in the desert, right? In the wilderness. You
Right.
got to get up. You got to take action. You just got to keep your faith, and I promise you, everything will work out.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jay. It's been certainly a pleasure to have you here on Purpose today. I'll be back with you backstage in just a moment. And
Okay.
thank you, everybody, for watching. We really appreciate you watching this episode of Purpose Today.
Cool.
Make it a great day and be purposeful today and every day. Thank you again, Jay, for being our guest. I'll see
You're
you
welcome.
shortly.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.